Welcome. I'm Lee Cowan, and this is Here Comes the Sun, a closer look at some of the people, places, and things we bring you every weekend on Sunday morning. Ina Garten. She's known for her warm personality and the simple but delicious recipes that she shared with Food Network viewers and her cookbook readers for years now. But before she entertained audiences, she was just delighting friends with dinner parties after long days spent working on economic policy at the White House. When she saw a newspaper ad selling a specialty food store in the Hamptons, well, she knew it was her chance for a full-time career in hospitality, as she told our Rita Braver.
And I went home that night and I said to Jeffrey, I need to do something creative. And that was the beginning of it.
They bought the shop for $20,000, taking a second mortgage on their D.C. home. Jeffrey would commute on weekends while Ina ran the store. It seems especially surprising and daring because growing up, it seems like you were not allowed to go off the beaten track in any way.
It's not just that I wasn't allowed to go off the beaten track, I wasn't allowed to make a decision on my own.
Later in the show, Ina Garten speaks out about her difficult home life as a child.
Sometimes people are embarrassed to admit that they suffered abuse. Why did you decide to tell all?
I think the reason why I wanted to tell the story is because I wanted people to know that this doesn't have to be their life story. And I remember when I was 15, and I thought to myself, if I'm dating someone who so much as raises his voice to me, I'm out of there. And I never changed it. I think a lot of people make a light decision to change things and then they fall into the old patterns. I was absolutely determined to do it differently.
Then Seth Doane gets lost with British maize designer Adrian Fisher inside one of his creations. Fisher, who at 73 is still pretty much a kid at heart, has created 700 mazes in 43 countries. He even built one in his own backyard.
People will always want to play with mazes. It's the ultimate playful puzzle.
You have also done corn mazes through cornfields.
Corn maze, yes, to design the first corn maze in the world in Pennsylvania. Since when I've gone and built over, 420 corn mazes around the world.
His mazes have set Guinness World Records. He's been recognized by royalty, and his maze at Winston Churchill's birthplace, Blenheim Palace, is featured on the 5-pound note.
That's all coming up right here on Here Comes the Sun. Ina Garten, or the Barefoot Contessa, as she's known to fans, has published more than a dozen cookbooks. Her latest book, though, is a memoir. It's a rare look into the personal life of the cheerful home cook. Garten opens up about childhood abuse, her temporary separation from her husband Jeffrey, and more within those pages. To our Rita Braver.
So we're going to start with bourbon. The key to this is that it's fresh juice. So many times you go to a bar or restaurant and they make whiskey sours with like bottled lemon juice. It's just the worst.
Even making a cocktail with Ina Garten is a learning experience. But boy, is it worth it.
Cheers. Cheers to you.
Olive oil because it has a higher burning temperature, and the butter because it has great flavor.
Of course, the kitchen in her studio in East Hampton, New York,
So this takes a little time, but time takes time.
is familiar to millions of viewers. Wow. Of her Emmy Award-winning cooking shows on the Food Network. But still, someone warned me that you don't like to call yourself a chef.
Well, I'm not a trained chef.
In fact, as she writes in her new memoir, Be Ready When the Luck Happens, back in the 1970s, she and her husband Jeffrey were both working in economic policy jobs at the White House. But her after-hours therapy, as she puts it, was hosting dinner parties for friends.
And I just thought, wait a minute, this is backwards. I love what I do after hours, and what I do during the day wasn't so exciting to me.
Just after her 30th birthday, she was reading the New York Times.
And there was this little ad for a specialty food store called Barefoot Contessa. And I went home that night and I said to Jeffrey, I need to do something creative. And that was the beginning of it.
They bought the shop for $20,000, taking a second mortgage on their D.C. home. Jeffrey would commute on weekends while Ina ran the store. It seems especially surprising and daring because Growing up, it seems like you were not allowed to go off the beaten track in any way.
It's not just that I wasn't allowed to go off the beaten track, I wasn't allowed to make a decision on my own.
She was born Ina Rosenberg in 1948 and grew up in Stamford, Connecticut, where her father was a doctor and her mom stayed at home. It seemed like a very comfortable life.
It was a very comfortable life.
But there was a family secret. You say that your father was prone to temper tantrums. He would physically beat you.
Well, he hit me, yeah.
And sometimes drag you around by your hair.
It was bad. It was bad.
I mean, come on. You have said at times you actually feared for your life.
I think I wanted to fight back, but I was afraid he would kill me.
Did your mother protect you in any way?
Maybe she was as afraid as I was.
But her life would change when she was just 16. While visiting her brother at Dartmouth College, another student named Jeffrey Garten spotted her through the library window. What did you find so attractive?
Everything. Absolutely everything. The way she was standing, she was laughing, and she was just beautiful.
He wangled an introduction, and they were married in 1968 with Jeffrey in his Army Reserve uniform.
Hi, sweetie.
Oh, that looks great.
While he is sometimes a congenial presence on Ina's shows, he is also a noted economist.
I'd love some wine. That'd be fabulous.
I saved all the letters he wrote to me when we were in college.
Ina credits Jeffrey with giving her confidence after her miserable childhood.
Some of these I can't show you, but let's see what we have.
Why not?
Definitely not showing you that. Organized.
But not about one key thing. Were you scared that you wouldn't be a good parent?
Absolutely, 100%. Jeffrey would have been a fabulous parent, just fabulous.
And what did you think about, not having children?
I didn't think so much about it. I was very busy with just moving on, so it didn't bother me.
Ina threw herself into running the Barefoot Contessa with well-heeled Hamptons clients. I love the story about the woman who every week bought 10 pounds of lemon chicken.
Grilled lemon chicken. And finally, after weeks and weeks and weeks of this, I had to say, what are you doing with 10 pounds of grilled lemon chicken? She said, my cat likes it.
But after a while, as Ina reveals for the first time, she began to question the traditional mid-century roles in her marriage and asked Jeffrey for a separation.
I love to cook dinner, but what I don't like is for somebody to expect me to cook dinner. I think there's a big difference.
Yes, that's a great point.
Yeah.
So what I say is don't cook dinner.
And then I cook it.
They clearly worked out their problems.
I love that it's a small town.
Ina moved her store to East Hampton,
We had screen doors when you walked in.
but sold it in 1996. She was restless and wanted to try something new. Bookhampton, the East Hampton bookstore.
My favorite bookstore in the world. It's the best. That's like too much.
So she turned her talents to writing cookbooks, the thing that really introduced her to the world outside the Hamptons. Her first, published 25 years ago, was a smash hit.
I somehow connected with home cooks in a way that I couldn't have imagined.
Now she's done 12 more.
But I think it's kind of like exercise. The more you do it, the better you get at it.
And with another cookbook on the way,
You have no idea.
and a popular TV show,
I'm here with Stanley Tucci, and he's showing me how to make a fish stew called
Cachuco.
Ina Garten says she's doing what she loves. And what's more, before he died, she got an apology from her father.
He said, "Whew, I don't know what I was thinking." That was it. And I realized he tortured himself as much as he tortured me. And it was over. It was so simple and it was so effective. And it meant everything. And then we went on to have a good relationship.
After the break, an exclusive excerpt from Rita Braver's chat with Ina Garten, something you can only see right here on Here Comes the Sun. Stay with us. As promised, here's more of Rita Braver's interview with Ina Garten.
Why did you decide to write a memoir?
Well, you know, a friend of mine who worked with me on the memoir for about a year and a half kept saying, we should write your memoir. And I was like, who would be interested in my memoir? And then finally she said to me, somebody's going to write your memoir, and it should be you. And I was like, okay, I get it.
You wanted to tell your own story. So what did you find out about yourself in doing this memoir?
I actually had no idea what I'd done. It was quite amazing because I'm always looking forward. I'm always thinking about what I'm going to do next. And I'd never connected the dots. And I came at it thinking I had been really, really lucky that when I was writing cookbooks, that's what was really fun. Food was big. When I was doing television, it was the beginning of Food Network. That along the way, I'd just been incredibly lucky. But when I started to write the memoir, and I started in Washington, where I was working in the government, I realized, oh yeah, that's right, I taught myself how to cook, but I just did it for the fun of it. And oh yeah, that's right, I learned about renovating houses and construction and working with contractors and negotiating loans with banks. But I just did it for the fun of it. And then when I decided I wanted to do something fun for my life, I realized I had actually done the work, and I didn't know I'd done it. So that was an amazing, it was just built my confidence in a way I never had.
Sometimes people are embarrassed to admit that they suffered abuse. Why did you decide to tell all?
I think the reason why I wanted to tell the story is because I wanted people to know that this doesn't have to be their life story. And I remember when I was 15, and I thought to myself, if I'm dating someone who so much as raises his voice to me, I'm out of there. And I never changed that. I think a lot of people make a light decision to change things, and then they fall into the old patterns. I was absolutely determined to do it differently.
How did you and Jeffrey work out your differences? Because you really demanded something else in your marriage. You wanted to be an equal decision maker.
I wanted to be a partner, I think, as opposed to a wife. And I think I talked about it, but it's hard to hear when you've got, you're a man and you've got somebody taking care of everything. And I think that kind of putting on the brakes really got his attention. And we spent 5 or 6 months apart. He was on a trip with the State Department, so he was away anyway. And when he got back, we sat down and said, okay, if we do this differently, it changed me a lot. This is what I'd like. And he said, well, you know what? There's some things I'd like to do that I can't do, or I didn't think I could do as the husband.
Because he needed to take care of you,
right,
he thought.
Right, exactly. And so he said he would like to do more traveling. And I said, great, with the State Department. I said, great. So we kind of renegotiated the
terms of your marriage.
The terms of our marriage. And I have to say, I think both of us were happier, and we could never have what we have now if I hadn't done it. But boy, was that scary.
You have said that when you left your sad childhood behind and moved into a world with Jeffrey, the real me began to emerge. What did you think was the real you?
I remember he was in the military. We lived in North Carolina, and we rented like a garden apartment. It was really nice. And I remember walking into that apartment and saying to myself, I can do anything I want. I can cook as much as I want. I can decorate this house. I can go to school. I can not go to school. I can walk across the street as I did to the airport and ask somebody to teach me how to fly airplanes. I mean, I could do anything I want. It was such a release of stress and shoulds and all of that. I can make whatever life I want to make.
Up next, we meet one amazing designer. Welcome back. People have been fascinated by mazes for centuries. They're part architecture and part art. British hedge maze designer Adrian Fisher is the creative genius behind some of the most famous hedge mazes in the world. Seth Doane put his navigational skills to the test with Fisher at Leeds Castle in England.
two paths here.
I would say.
Do you want to go that way or that way?
I would say this way.
He knows the way and planned it so we would not.
I'll go one way, you go the other, and we'll both be coming back here before you know.
Okay.
I bet.
And betting against a maze designer in his maze is a bad idea.
Ta-da! Because you see it as a loop.
73-year-old Adrian Fisher is part English gentleman, part nutty professor, and perhaps majority kid.
When you hear there's a maze there, we all want to have a go. It's like being a child. What's forbidden, out of sight, I want to explore it.
We were exploring amid the 2,400 yew trees.
It does take a lot of work. This is a lot of trimming of hedges.
When you plant a maze, you don't plant for a quick result. You plant so that for the next 400 years at least. I don't have a guarantee any maze over 400 years, I can assure you.
But there is a guarantee to 400?
Yeah, take it up with me personally. But
This maze is on the sprawling grounds of Leeds Castle in Kent, England.
people will always want to play with mazes. It's the ultimate playful puzzle.
People have been trying to solve these playful puzzles for centuries, millennia if you consider labyrinths.
A labyrinth has no choices at all. It's a single thread, and a maze has junctions and choices. Labyrinth started 5,000 years ago. There was the great labyrinth of Egypt. And then after 4,500 years, labyrinths or mazes started appearing in Italy, in hedges.
Fisher has worked in 43 countries, building 700 mazes.
It's like a piece of sculpture. You engage with it, you interact, and you go away and you look back as you leave, and you keep on talking about it because it's excited you. So it is essentially an art form.
Do you see yourself as an artist?
I think very much so, yeah.
Commissions include, perhaps counterintuitively, the airport in Singapore.
And you've got a plane to catch, and if you get lost, you miss the flight.
The maze in the 2023 thriller Saltburn is his.
You have also done corn mazes through cornfields.
Corn maze, yes, to design the first corn maze in the world in Pennsylvania. Since when I've gone and built over, 420 corn mazes around the world.
His mazes have set Guinness World Records. He's been recognized by royalty, and his maze at Winston Churchill's birthplace, Blenheim Palace, is featured on the £5 note.
It's quite a British thing, mazes, but we absolutely love them.
Helen Bosner-Wilton is the chief executive of the Leeds Castle Foundation. This site draws about 500,000 people a year.
What do visitors say about the maze?
Pretty fiendish, actually.
Fiendish?
A lot of people get lost in it. They do need fishing out.
No, really?
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you mean?
So we have to send our visitor experienced people in to rescue them.
Are you lost?
Yeah, you might want to go down this way and down there.
Go down that one right, that's it. Yep.
It is complicated, I've been through it, but I would think you'd be able to find your way out.
You would have thought, but a lot of people can't.
That's a new dead end there.
The Stout family from Oklahoma was having trouble finding their way.
Keep all the turns to the left.
Okay.
Okay.
Right?
From now.
From now.
Jimmy is 19.
No Google Maps for this maze.
Roman dodecahedrons, like that, so I can now go there. These are the flags.
The puzzle-obsessed Adrian Fisher's route into this work has the twists of one of his creations. As a teen, he'd built a maze in his father's garden, then while on business, started doing side trips to castles to make a pitch.
Wouldn't it be wonderful if you had a maze in the grounds of your castle? It's different to just looking at suits of armour or furniture or whatever. It gives people something lovely to do.
And he proves one does not need a castle.
Not everybody has a maze in their backyard.
No, we can do something about that, but...
He planted this one about 20 years ago at his home in Dorset, England.
This is good English weather for maze growing, hedge growing.
It'll grow, yes. Then it'll need clipping.
Will you and your wife come out and use your maze?
We're familiar with how to go solving it by now, but...
I'm sure I would imagine.
I mean, my father told me this. He said, the thing about gardens is it's an opportunity to boast.
And really, what better way to boast than with this status symbol of kings and queens?
How many of us can have a large enough garden to do something which has no other purpose than to be joyful and entertain?
It mixes design, history, and a very old-fashioned form. of adventure.
Been in there about 3 hours.
I'm Lee Cowan. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you right here next time on Here Comes the Sun.